Welcome everybody to we're up to day 37. The past few days we were talking about the order of the prayer, because I finished the book of Ava and we discussed the Mitzvah prayer, but the Rambam and the Sefer Hamitzvot actually goes over the order of prayer. So it's literally what they did up to yesterday. And I just wanted to kind of fill you in on what we missed the last few days. Okay, today's mitzvah is a beautiful one. I'm going to read it in Hebrew, and the mitzvah is, and did I say day 37? Because I meant day 38. Thank you. Is the positive mitzvah 154, Hatzivoy Stavinu Lishbot B'Shabbat, the mitzvah to rest, to cease, to stop working on Shabbos. And the pasuk is of Yom Hashvi Tishbot. On the seventh day, you shall. Okay. So the chapters that we're now corresponding to, the book is the book of Zmanim, which means times, special times. And of course, it starts with Shabbos because Shabbos is the most special time, and Shabbos comes very frequently. And if you think about the days of the week, according to the Torah, Shabbos is the only one that has a name. The other days we say Yom Rishon l'Shabbat, Yom Sheni l'Shabbat, right? The first day to what? First day to Shabbos, second day to Shabbos. Everything is about Shabbos. Now, what does it mean, l'shbot? Where does the word Shabbos come from? So there's many allusions like everything else in the Torah, but the main, like the technical meaning is to stop, to cease. I think in Miriam, tell me if I'm right, in Israel, the way they refer to a strike is shvita, right? The idea of like stopping, not working. So that's the question. What are we stopping? Stopping what? Are we stopping to sing? Are we stopping to laugh? Are we stopping to cry? We probably stop to cry, but we're stopping to work. That's what it means. And this is very interesting. It's a positive mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to stop working, which I don't know, that inspired some for bringing ideas for me. Like the idea of malchus, or if I'm going to go off track for a second, malchus, which is the feminine energy of royalty and malchus, what's the best way? Yeah, kingship, etc., is about being. It's about not doing something. It's a very active, proactive, positive thing. It's not a negative, like you're not doing something. The act of not doing something is it's a positive mitzvah. And that means if somebody breaks this, if somebody does do work on Shabbos, they're breaking two mitzvot. They're breaking the mitzvah of the lo taseh, then the prohibition to do work, and the aseh, the positive, which tells us you cannot work. Okay, so who can't work? The pasuk says that first of all, you can't work. Your animals cannot work. And what that means is they can't work for you, right? So if they decide to be mechal Shabbos, break Shabbos by eating grass or cutting or whatever, no problem. But for you can't use the animal to do work for you on Shabbos. And it says avadim, which means indentured servants, essentially, let's say the laws of Eved Knani, et cetera, which have so many details to them, but those people it's not hired help. Those people become part of your family, and they're also not allowed to break Shabbos. They have to rest on Shabbos. Okay, and then Rambam brings another interesting detail that it says, in the case of pikuach nefesh, in the case of potential loss of life or danger, you have to you have to push away Shabbos. And the idea of this term that he uses to push Shabbos is because saving life comes first, always. Everything, we drop everything to save life. We're fanatics about life. Shabbos is the most typical example of something you would break to save a life. We've all seen the Hatzalah members come to our Shabbos meal with walkie-talkies. Not only is that not Shabbosdik or not respectful to Shabbos, it's the opposite. It's the most respectful thing to Shabbos. This is the way a Jew lives. However, if there's an instance where it wouldn't make a difference for you to, if you minimize the work, and I'll give some examples in a second, then you should choose that. Meaning if there's even a doubt that by you not doing something, you'll have less of a chance of saving a life, then no, you don't even consider that. But if there's a possibility in the saving a life to minimize your work, then you should consider that. The most common example that I'm familiar with is whenever pregnant, thank God, and it's around my due date and it's before Shabbos, we always call a rabbi to kind of go over the laws. And I remember that when Gershon was actually born on Shabbos, one of the things they tell you is, of course, you could take a taxi, right? You could do everything. You could break Shabbos. But if there's ways to minimize work or do less things that break Shabbos, please, why not? Excellent. Every opportunity you have. Again, if God forbid someone's hemorrhaging or whatever, and an extra 4 seconds is going to make a difference, then that's totally to be uncalculated. But if someone's water broke and they're going to the hospital, what are ideas? If you can hire a non-Jewish driver to drive you, that's better. If you can get the doorman to open the door for you, that's better. If you pay and you tell them to keep the change so you're not dealing with money more than you have to, even better. So these are just some small examples of if it's possible to push off Shabbos, in other words, not completely drop it altogether. And again, it will not intervene with the idea of saving the person's life. I believe in Israel, they're being very creative. I think there's something called a Shabbos telephone, which doesn't mean that everyone, I'm just hearing about this, I don't know details, but doesn't mean everyone now can have a Shabbos telephone in their house. It means that for certain lines of work, they'll sometimes have to make phone calls. So they created a phone with a system that the guy, the girl, whoever can use it, but it's doing less work than a regular phone would. So I think it's a very interesting nuance. But again, I don't know if I made it clear enough. Saving life comes first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. But there's an idea if, let's say a doctor in a hospital, if a non-Jew can do what he can do and it won't make any morsel of a difference to the person's life, why not? And even in those settings, try to keep Shabbos where you can. Okay, so okay, why is this an idea? Just to, be technical for a second. So there's the idea of v'chai b'hem, right? The main idea of mitzvahs is v'chai b'hem, we should live with them. Judaism is a living situation. We don't believe in self-sacrifice. There are times, of course, where that's appropriate. And I think did we discuss it recently? Maybe. But in general, we're fanatic about life, end of story. And another reason, which is a little bit more technical, is that you will desecrate one Shabbos, but this person will hopefully be able to keep many Shabbosim after. So it's like you're breaking one Shabbos in order for them to stay alive and keep many more Shabbatot. The reason why that's brought down second is because, let's say someone saved for Shabbos and then unfortunately passes away on, Tuesday or Wednesday. Was it not worth it because they can't keep more Shabbatot? The answer is, of course, absolutely not. Every second of life is precious, doesn't really matter. So it's kind of like an add-on reason and interesting. It reminds me of the idea of, with the story of Purim, Esther, before she went and approached the king to intervene on the Jewish people's behalf, she asked the Jews, because she needed, of course, that spiritual backup, so to speak. She asked the Jews and she herself fasted. When did they fast? On Pesach. They fasted on Passover. Woo! I mean, sometimes we feel like we're fasting on Passover, but completely different style, right? So, and the rationale was better to break this Pesach so that we can keep Pesach forever and ever. So it's because that one time they broke Pesach, so to speak, that's why we are able to keep Pesach every single year. Okay, I believe we're doing this mitzvah again tomorrow, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But again, lishbot b'Shabbos means to seize work. That's the literal mitzvah of today. And have an amazing day. And a great Shabbos. Hayom Shlishi l'Shabbat, the third day to Shabbos. All right. Bye-bye.